Good afternoon, Canada. How are you today? I'm your host, Parmesan, and this is Niagara due north. On this show, we get information across to you somehow, in some way, because it's always so important to get you my news from Niagara due north, folks. And if I can get you guys to like and subscribe down below so more people can listen to that cringy ass intro, I would really love it. Now, jumping into the episode today, folks, for you, earlier today, just moments ago, Pierre Poillievre goes after Carney again. And I tell you, I think this was the crux of the campaign. Poillievre is going after international loopholes and is really making sure that these people can't do what they're doing right now. It is very important for the globalists that Mark Carney wins, because I think their free ride is over, folks. You need to listen to this. It is extremely explosive, okay? And then after that, I am going to take you for a complete sharp turn. And Right Blend from X posted a surprising video that he himself wasn't even expecting, and we will get to that after Pierre's announcements, folks. Let's get into it.
The last time we had a conservative government, we were on the heels of a lot of other liberal scandal. Who could forget this?
How dare I, before we get into this important news cycle, everyone, I have to shout out my sponsor, Juice. Apple juice, folks. Yum. I wouldn't be able to make today's episode without apple juice.
Sponsorship scandal. We came to office promising
I'm a loser.
Accountability Act.
Help me.
And we delivered. We passed laws forcing more disclosure of government information, banning conflicts of interest, cracking down on insiders, setting up the lobbyist registry so that we knew who was paid to influence government decisions. And it worked for a while, until liberals found loopholes. And we have to give them credit. They're very creative. As much as we tried to stomp out all the liberal corruption, they went to work to find ways around the rules. So, I'm announcing today that a new conservative government will bring change by introducing the Accountability Act 2.0.
2.0, ladies and gentlemen.
Remove the loopholes that Mr. Carney and the Liberals are using to avoid accountability for themselves and for their party. We're going to put Canadians first for a change. We're going to have an accountable government for a change. We're going to have politicians and leaders who work for you, for your affordable home and food, for your safe street, for your paycheck, for a change. So, let me lay out some of the elements of this plan. First, we will ban shadow lobbying. Now,
Uno.
lobbying is when professional VIPs with big shot titles call themselves advisors so that they can influence government decisions to profit themselves. Mr. Carney's been famous for this. He bragged that he lobbied
King of
the British
Juice.
government to
Oh.
increase jet fuel prices while his company invested in the jet fuel. He brags that he influenced governments to subsidize heat pumps while his company invests in heat pumps. He says that he's going to reverse the liberal housing crisis by having the government build prefab tiny homes. Well, his company is invested in prefab tiny homes. Using a fake title of advisor to push policies that enrich yourself while impoverishing everyone else is an unacceptable conflict of interest, and it is nothing more than glorified corporate lobbying that is unregistered.
right? Do you see what he's talking about there? The past 5 years of Mark Carney being an advisor, right? This guy is going after Carney himself.
We have a lobbyist ready.
I think before the campaign is done, this guy's going to drop a nuke on Carney. I think.
Which is meant to allow Canadians to know who is taking money to influence government decisions. We cannot allow high-priced corporate insiders like Mark Carney to go around those rules. And so, henceforth, we will eliminate the lobbying loophole and require anyone who's acting as a advisor to government officials to declare themselves and register as a lobbyist whenever they are advising on matters that touch upon their financial interests or that of their company. This would have required Mr. Carney register as a lobbyist when he was talking about anything that would have profited his corporate interests at Brookfield. Second, we will stop politicians from profiting off their own decisions. Ministers should not be involved in setting policies that enrich themselves or their families without accountability. We should not allow people to use their political power in government to make decisions that will advantage themselves above and beyond the public interest. Let me explain the problem. There's a section in the Ethics Act right now that allows a politician to make a decision that benefits him or his family.
So, folks, I do apologize for the lengthy answers, but it's all like above our pay grade here, and we need to listen to him lay all this out. This is crazy. He is really shutting it down.
If it benefits other people as well. Now, the reason that was set up was so that, for example, Jim Flaherty benefited by cutting the GST because his consumer purchases were a little more affordable. But, of course, everybody benefited. We didn't want to declare that to be a conflict of interest. But
makes sense, right?
Over-interpreted to allow, for example, Bill Morneau to make policies that affect insurance plans just because there are multiple companies that benefit from it and not just his. And so we will put in place a stricter test that will ban politicians, particularly ministers, from any involvement in decisions that would benefit their interests more than the public interest. They would also have to declare these interests publicly and widely so that everyone knows. Third, we'll increase the fines for ethics violations to $10,000. No more slaps on the wrist. 4.
I mean, $10,000 is still a slap on the wrist for a company like Brookfield.
Tax transparency. Anyone running for office will have to disclose where they paid taxes for the last 7 years. In which country? Interestingly, one reporter has contacted Mr. Carney's campaign and said, have you been paying taxes in Canada personally? And his campaign refuses to answer that question. Seems like a pretty basic question. He's the Prime Minister of Canada, and he can't tell a journalist whether he pays taxes in Canada, whether he personally pays the same taxes that he charges everyone else. This is, I've never seen something like this in my life.
Right? So he is going after Carney. Mark Carney himself. The climate scam. How is this a climate hoax, folks? And now you can take this to all of your lefty co-workers. Climate change isn't a scam. The climate is changing. Everyone knows that. Billionaires and CEOs took advantage of that, fear-mongered young people into believing that the earth was gonna burn. And they were gonna die because of it. Why did they do this? It's because they needed to get governments involved. So governments could set policies in so that these policies benefit these companies. Like Train. Let's put in a policy for heat pumps. This way Train, that Brookfield owns, gets massive contracts from the government. Guys, this is how you get rich nowadays. Government contracts. You think Elon Musk is this rich from Tesla? He has government contracts through SpaceX. That's how that dude is so rich. That has been the 21st century way to get rich, is government contracts. And these people exploited Canada really, really bad. What I have for you next, folks, is a very great question that could not have been asked by the CTV or CBC. This is a very good question about foreign interference, and followed by a very good answer.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Marco Vigliati, iPolitics. Once again, we're seeing an announcement, an ethics announcement focused on, Mark Carney overtly. But one thing we really haven't heard so far during this campaign is your plan to deal with the threat the threat foreign interference poses to our institutions and our election integrity. Obviously, a major focus of the previous parliament. We've even seen during this campaign questions raised about certain candidates' close ties to foreign governments. But we really haven't heard too much on your end what you would do differently other than scolding the Liberals for not putting in place the foreign agent registry fast enough. So I'm just wondering, let's maybe just focus on nomination races, for example, a known soft spot for this activity. Would you commit to bringing those races under the umbrella of the Canada Elections Act? And if you won't commit to doing that, can you give Canadians any assurances that you would take foreign interference serious enough, even if that means reducing the autonomy political parties like the one you lead have over things like nomination races?
We will. I can assure you that we will take foreign interference seriously. After the lost Liberal decade, Canada has become a playground to foreign interference. And the Liberals have benefited from interference by Beijing in 2 consecutive elections. Beijing has now interfered in both the Liberal leadership race to help Mark Carney and again in the general election to help Mr. Carney. Mr. Carney learned of a Liberal candidate on his roster that was telling people to send his Conservative opponent back over to China on a bounty where he would have been imprisoned or killed, and Mr. Carney refused to get rid of that candidate. It was actually the candidate that finally left after we found out that the RCMP was involved. I'm very worried about the foreign interference that could result from the fact that Mr. Carney's company, which he still invests in, owes $250 million to the Chinese government. So one of the things we're going to do to stop foreign interference is require politicians divest their interests, sell them, not just put them in a fake blind trust, so they no longer have their financial strings attached to a hostile foreign government. And yes, I have complained that they have not set up the foreign interference registry. You will recall that our party put partisanship aside and we rushed through the foreign interference law. I sent out my brilliant foreign affairs critic, Michael Chong. He walked in front of all of you. He announced we would fast-track the passage. And the reason was because we wanted that foreign agent registry in place by the time the election happened. The Liberals said they would do that, and here we are. And now we don't know who are the paid actors operating on behalf of foreign governments. So we need a new Conservative government that will end the foreign interference, stand up for the integrity of our democracy, and protect our people from foreign dangers.
I'm not gonna lie, folks. I am not going to trust any of the 2 major parties to put any form of election reform onto this. But I have a question for you folks, because I have an idea for election reform. I think, and comment down below if you have an idea for election reform, or maybe if you agree or disagree with mine. I think population density should be taken into account. I think that MPs should represent certain cultures that certain groups of Canada have. For example, Southwestern Ontario culture is different from Northern Ontario culture, which is much different from Alberta culture. Okay, which is all much different from downtown Toronto culture. But this is the thing. Downtown Toronto culture, University Rose Ave, has no different culture than Danforth. Not a single one. Downtown Toronto Centre, that's the exact same as University Rosedale. These cultures are the exact same and should be represented by one MP. So I'm thinking that where population density exceeds a certain amount, the MP representing that riding should have a higher constituency than other places. Oh. As I tell you, Google's done. Google is done. Google's done, folks. I want an answer, and I want it now. I don't want to search for it, man. So, folks, one MP throughout all over Canada represents 122,449 Canadians. That's where the ridings come in. That's why ridings are so much bigger than others. 142,000 people is what one MP does. And that is why there's one MP for freaking Northwest Territories, and there's, 30 MPs for Toronto? So, let's stop that right now. Correct? Correct me if I am wrong, folks. Maybe we get an MP for Toronto needs to represent 500,000. Okay? I just wanted to get that out of the way. I think that is probably the only way, that is the best way to account and bring back a more fair election program. Folks, go follow Right Blend on X. Give him a shout out. I don't think he's on YouTube, but this man, just like the pleb, going to every rally, doing the before and afters. He's been filling everyone in, but he ran into a lovely lady who has been probably the worst victim of the liberal agenda the past 10 years. Let's get right into it.
What is the most important issue, do you think, in this election? Like, what's the most important policy position?
Crime.
The crime.
Yes.
And Pierre made some really good points in there about the crime. If you're caught dealing fentanyl a certain amount of times, life in prison, reforming, the 3 strikes, you're out. I thought there was a lot of stuff in there, and it's incredible. What's the thing that really got you there?
I lost my daughter.
Sorry.
She was murdered. And I lost my son. He took his own life for mental health. So I'm big on that.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
I was not expecting that answer, but this is real life. And
It is.
And you have been neglected by this government because of these policies.
You have no idea. You have no idea. You have
so sorry.
no idea what
so sorry.
I have to go through.
I'm so sorry.
As a victim,
Yeah.
we get victimized time and time and time again.
I'm so sorry.
Like I'm going to the institution for his parole hearing. He's a dangerous offender, and he gets reviewed every 2 years.
With the Parole Board of Canada. I find that I've done some independent court coverage, and I find judges are a certain way, but I find that the Parole Board of Canada tends to be a bit more, in some cases, stringent. Would you?
It's not the parole board, it's the government legislation.
Yeah. So what has the Parole Board, you think, acted appropriately in your case?
Yes.
I'm
They've
glad
been
to-
very good. I have
I'm
a
glad to hear
contact
that.
there. I call them
I'm
all
glad
the
to
time.
hear that.
They're very good. It's the government legislation.
Exactly. We can't, like Pierre said, when you have a guy who's been out 30, 40 times, the group in Vancouver arrested thousands of times. When you have that going on, and it literally takes somebody doing something unimaginable before they actually get a real consequence, which is when we don't want to just throw people in jail on their first offense. Like Pierre said, we want them to learn that this isn't the way to do it,
Exactly.
right? But we don't want to have people arrested 30, 40 times for robbery and all this until they finally until they finally do something. So I'm so sorry to hear that.
You have no idea.
So disgusting that people are wanting to vote for this. How disgusting, man. You wonder why people say that, these people need to be hard. These people need to have these bad things done to them because they're not affected by these policies that they bring in. And they think that she's a number and she doesn't have any feelings and they don't care about her. Heartwarming, folks, and it's just a reminder to what we're voting for out there, right? We need to get this garbage dealt with. Can you believe somebody voted for Justin Trudeau and made this happen to this lady, okay? That's all we need to know. This wouldn't have happened to this lady if the Liberals weren't in, because it was their policies that led to it. That's all there is to it. It doesn't go farther than that. Guys, thank you very much for watching the show this far. I am doing a documentary, a very short one. It's my first video production, and it's going to be coming out this week. And it's going to be about media misinformation and how the media misleads viewers and tricks them into believing the narrative that they put out. So if you want to see that, folks, give it a subscribe down below, and I will see you guys all later.